Good afternoon, everybody joining us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Welcome,
Hello.
welcome, welcome. There we are. I'll just wait for everybody to fully join.
Now you can speak.
So, firstly,
Afternoon.
apologies. Afternoon, whoever that was. Afternoon. Thank you. Without being rude, if I can ask you all, if you can, to mute your microphone by tapping the screen and just pressing mute, because that will help Kerry not get any feedback and stuff on the back of her phone. God, I can see you all doing it. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I will start with my normal sort of housekeeping bits and pieces, one of which is that. And the second one, which is really important to us, is to make sure that you grab this opportunity to ask as many questions that maybe aren't covered in the presentation. So tap the screen. At the bottom, there's a chat facility. Just click and type your question into that chat. And then at the end of the session, I will pick up anything that's raised and Kerry gets asked as a result of the presentation, or things that aren't on the presentation. So please grab the opportunity to do that. I've been a travel agent and selling Fred Olsen holidays for over 30 years, which is a long old time. But I have to say that probably, if not definitely, this is probably the most exciting launch we've ever had for Fred Olsen Cruises, simply because of the amazing things that they've done regarding new ships since last year. And Kerry will talk about this, but it really is amazing, amazing news, and something that Fred's been wanting to do for a while. And of course, during this global pandemic, as a general rule, most companies have pulled their horns in, done less, saved money. It's fantastic that Fred Olsen have taken the opposite approach and invested in the future, which is absolutely brilliant. And so my feeling is, not only is it a great time to be a travel agent promoting and selling Fred Olsen Cruises, it's also, and I think Kerry will prove this, a great opportunity to be a Fred Olsen cruiser on Fred Olsen ships, as I think you'll see when she goes through her presentation. Final thing just before Kerry starts is to say what wonderful news the travel industry, and particularly the cruise industry, had yesterday from the government, where they have finally given the green light for the recommencement of cruising, initially in UK waters around the UK from the 17th of May. So having been on halt for a long, long time now, the cruise industry has finally got the play button pressed, which is wonderful. And what we fully expect to see is then a rollout then across Europe and across the world as cruise moves forward. And I think it is testament to the amazing job that's done by the cruise lines and clear the cruise industry body in terms of going through with government just exactly what they're going to do from a health and safety perspective, a COVID secure perspective, to look after guests as they go on board cruises. So they have done such a good job of that the government have given them the green light yesterday. So really, really positive news for the industry as a whole. So without further ado, to talk about what I've teed you up for perfectly, Kerry, in terms of the exciting news from Fred's, I will pass over to Kerry, who will no doubt inspire you with the exciting things Fred's have been up to in the last 12 months. Kerry, over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Miles. Well, very good afternoon. It's so nice to see some familiar faces. I know I've seen some of you at the previous Miles Morgan events, so it really is lovely to see you. So I'm just going to share my screen with you all now, and I hope you'll be able to see the presentation. Okay. So today I'm going to talk to you about the 2022 and 2023 cruising itineraries that have actually gone on sale today for our Ocean members, which are our loyal guests. And for any of you on the call that maybe have never cruised with Fred Olsen, I hope to be able to give you a great insight of why you should cruise with us. So some of the highlights I'm going to cover with you today, of course, are going to be about our new ships, Boletta and Borealis, that we did purchase back at the end of last summer. A sneak peek at getting them ready, what we've done to them so far, reasons to cruise with Fred Olsen in the future, what cruises we've got on sale, so new departures with more regional departure ports, handcrafted highlights, Mars Morgan escorted groups, and a very special world cruise. So first of all, let's introduce the family members to you. So the first ship here is Boletta. So she's one of our new vessels, and she carries a capacity of guests of 1,338. So that means basically any cruise ship now out there that's less than 1,500 passengers is still considered a small ship. So that's the reason that we bought these two new ones, is that they were smaller. They weren't massive ships. Fred Olsen is never going to buy these big ships. We like to be intimate and small so we can take you to places the big ships can't get to. Now, the good news with Belletta being one of our new ships, she's going to be sailing out of the southern port of Southampton. We've got a new ship to discover closer to home for us. Facilities on board are very similar to our previous vessels. They've got, in fact, 7 restaurants, so more choice, more variety. Bars and lounges, we have 8 of those. We've got a show lounge, we've got 2 swimming pools, we've got 3 jacuzzis, we've got fitness centres, spas, hairdressers, gaming tables, card rooms, theatres, and so forth. So there's plenty to keep you occupied on board during your sea days. Now, the great advantage also with the new ships, Belletta and Borealis, is that if you notice at the bottom, their maximum speed. So Belletta is 24.5 knots. They are much faster cruise ships than a lot of them out there on the ocean, and also a lot faster than what we had previously with Boudicca and Black Watch. So that great advantage means we can take you to places further away, but in a shorter period of time. Moving on to Borealis. Now, we haven't taken her over to Norway at the moment, so this is just an artist impression of what the ship will look like when she is in Norway. So as you're probably aware, the ships are currently up in Rosyth, all 4 of them at the moment, and they're undergoing quite extensive refits to make sure that they have the Fred Olsen approval and that they are certainly ready when we're able to get back in the water and welcome all our lovely guests back on board. So Belletta and Borealis are very similar ships. Borealis is going to be sailing in and out of Liverpool. She carries a capacity of guests of 1,357, and her maximum cruising speed is 25 knots. So of course they will be joining the rest of the fleet. So we have Balmoral, and if you look at the capacity of Balmoral at 1,325, you can see that they're very similar in size to passenger numbers with the new ships. And Balmoral's maximum cruising speed is 16 knots. So you can see the difference there from 25 to 16. Balmoral's traditionally going to be sailing in and out of Newcastle, but there will be a few departures from the southern ports of Dover, Portsmouth, and also Southampton. And of course, moving on to Braemar, well, if you know me and recognise my face, I have spent many years working on board all of our ships within the fleet, and more recently on board Braemar. She's now considered to be the baby of the fleet. She carries 924 passengers, and she's the smallest ship within the fleet. She's the narrowest as well, which gives her a great advantage because she can cruise to destinations that the other ships within the fleet aren't able to do so. And that, of course, does include the Corinth Canal, as you can see here. She can cruise up the rivers to Rouen, up the Seine. She can cruise up the river in Spain to Seville, and of course, up the rivers to Bordeaux in France. So this is what we're doing to our new ships, and this is where we are currently. So we've been painting the outside of the ships, we've been painting the funnels, we've got the Fred Olsen flags on the ships. And I wanted to share this with you. Now, at the moment, we aren't able to share with you many images of inside the ship. The reason for that is because they're still very much a work in progress. Particularly over the last 2 weeks, we've been replacing the bathtubs that have been in the cabins with showers. And I'm pleased to say they're not having shower curtains. You've got a full shower screen with those shower cubicles. And Fred Olsen Jr., as you're probably aware, is the chairman of the company and also the owner. And he's very much involved in every intricate detail of the ships, from the carpets to the lampshades to the curtains, even to your dinner plates. And of course, that runs right the way through to the itineraries and the brochure as well. So nothing gets approved unless it's been signed off by Fred Olsen Jr. himself. So this will just give you a quick colour scheme of what the ships will look like. And as soon as we're able to, we will be able to share some more images of the interior shots for you. So every little detail, as I said, has been designed, and even some of the carpets on board have been designed by Fred Olsen Jr. himself. So you won't find them anywhere else in the world apart from on board our beautiful ships. So we do have lots of things to be excited about. Now, the images I want to show you now are images of what the ships looked like when we first purchased them. Now, they're not necessarily going to look like this when you come on board, but the main things I wanted to discuss with you is that the new ships are much more spacious. So yes, they're bigger ships. Yes, they have more passengers on board, but they are in fact a lot more spacious. There's more space per guest on the new ships. We have all-weather swimming pools on both of them, which means we've got a retractable roof. So if you're out enjoying your cocktails, swimming in the pool, or lazing around in the jacuzzis, if the weather becomes unfavourable, we can simply close that roof so you don't have to change your plans. You can stay out enjoying the decks. We've got lots of original artwork and premium decor on board, so you're probably fully aware that Fred Olsen himself loves his artwork, so we will be putting some new artwork on board the ships as well. We have more restaurants, bars and lounges, as well as dedicated meeting spaces for our groups, and that's going to be probably particularly important for the Miles Morgan escorted groups. So if you all want to have your own meeting space, you can have one of the lounges to do that. Now, an area on board the ships that I'm particularly excited about is the demonstration theatres, where we can showcase food and wine from various destinations around the world with our onboard chefs and, of course, our onboard bar team as well. So just imagine cruising up the rivers in France, and once you've docked, we can go and get some speciality French cheeses and breads and some delicious French wine, and we can get our chefs in there to showcase all of that food for you as well. More suites with balconies, so a lot more of the cabins on board the new ships have balconies, which is fantastic news. And in general terms, the cabins are much larger than what you would find on our previous vessels. We have a two-tiered main restaurant, giving us the opportunity to offer you both a fixed and flexible dining option. So we'll still very much have first dinner sitting and second sitting, but we'll also be able to add in the flexible dining option for those of you that don't want to commit to first or second sitting. A classic two-tiered theatre, so this is split over 2 decks, so you'll be able to watch numerous shows throughout your voyage. And a larger spa area with both ships offering a hydrotherapy pool, thermal spa and more treatment rooms. So why choose a Fred Olsen cruise? Well, there's lots of reasons. You'll have obviously your own independent personal reasons, but these are the main reasons that we believe that we get so many of our guests coming back to us time and time again. So number one being the fact that we have smaller ships. So there's lots of benefits with a smaller ship. The first one being that we can take you to places the big ships simply can't get to. So this image here is Balmoral cruising through the Kiel Canal in Germany. Bigger ships have to go up and around Denmark to get into the Baltic. We can cruise straight the way through the Kiel Canal. And of course, being on a smaller ship means you're on board with less passengers. And that also means that when you're going ashore with less passengers. So you're not going to be flooding the destination that you'll be visiting. You're only going ashore with hundreds of people, not thousands and thousands. Being on a smaller ship means that you also get to know the crew, and the crew get to know you on a much more personal and friendly service. And of course, you're going to get to know other passengers as well. So hopefully you'll make lots of friends on board your cruise. But of course, the number one thing is that safety and comfort is at the prime of all the things that we do on board. UK departure ports. So we're now considered to be the UK cruise line with the most number of UK departure ports. And we have added a couple of those departure ports back in for 2022 and 2023, mainly being London Tilbury, Portsmouth, and also Belfast. So that means wherever you live around the UK, not everybody has to come all the way down to Southampton to pick up one of the Fred Olsen ships. You can cruise in a more regional departure port. It also means if you're visiting destinations, for example, if you were cruising out of Newcastle, you're obviously a lot closer to Norway. So you can do Norway in a much shorter cruise. And if you're cruising over to, say, Canada and the US, you might depart from Liverpool, which means you're going to get over there a lot quicker than if you were from Rosyth or Edinburgh. Number 3, cruises closer to home. So unfortunately, not any of us have been able to sail for quite a number of months, and we're all itching to get back in the water. So whether you are simply looking to put your toe back in the water and experience a cruise closer to home, or if you are looking for that further afield adventure, then we have lots of opportunities for you to come back and cruise with Fred Olsen. So over the last few years, in particular, we've won many awards. So we have over 170 years of maritime experience behind us. So we have weathered our fair share of storms. I mean, goodness me, we've seen some world wars, we've seen a few pandemics in our time as well. So we're now in the 5th generation and a family-run business, and we have won lots of awards. And our main one that we're most proud of is the Cruise Critic Award for the best cruise itineraries. And we've won this every single year since 2015. And when I come onto the itineraries in just a moment, you'll see exactly why we've won that. Interesting to see as well that we've won a lot of awards in 2012, the most recent year. And great to see that we've won these awards when we weren't actually sailing very much in 2020. And a lot of these have come from our customer service experience. So keeping all our passengers up to date with any cancelled itineraries, new itineraries going on sale, and of course keeping all our passengers updated and inspired through social media of where we can take you when we are able to get back into the water. So journey planning, how do we put our cruises together? First of all, we need to understand what you, our guests, are looking for when choosing a cruise before coming on board our ships. Some of you want pure relaxation. Some of you come on board for a journey, maybe to the ends of the world. Some of you come on for a bit of culture and exploration when you're visiting the various destinations around the world. Some of you want a mixture of all 3 of those. So we need to make sure that we have an itinerary that's suitable for all our guests coming on board. Everything we do is tailored to you, our guests. So when we are planning our itineraries, every single time we start from scratch. We start from a blank page and a blank canvas. We do not copy and paste from previous years, and we do not run bus routes. But what we do is listen to your guest feedback at the end of every voyage that you have with us. We ask you to complete a questionnaire for your good and bad experiences, and then we take that into consideration when planning future cruise itineraries. We listen to your onshore experiences from the tours that we provide. We make sure that we have a mixture of relaxation, a journey, and culture. We also look at calendar and seasonal events, and we take all this into consideration when planning. And of course, the smaller ships and big benefits make sure that we plan our itineraries so that we're getting the maximum benefit of being a smaller ship. All this information is fed back to these 2 lovely people on the screen, which is Claire Ward and Martin Lister, who work within the Fred Olsen team. All this is taken into consideration, and then we start planning our itineraries from scratch every single year. And it normally takes about 2 to 3 years to start planning from scratch to being able to put the itineraries on sale, such as the ones we put on sale today. So let's have a look at the highlights for 2022 and 2023. Now, just before that, I want to advise you that if you are booking one of our new cruises, anything from 5 to 24 nights on board, we are offering you an onboard spending credit or a complimentary drinks package. So you do have the choice of one of those offers. If you're choosing a cruise that maybe is more than 24 nights, then the offer is most likely just going to be an onboard spending credit. So 2022-2023 at a glance. So we have 126 cruising itineraries on sale as of today from 3 to 101 nights around the globe. We've got 272 different ports of call. We have 119 areas of scenic cruising. And when I say scenic cruising, these are the little nooks and crannies that we can go around the world with our smaller ships. 82 countries, 15 maiden ports of call. Now, every single year, we have so many repeat passengers coming back to Fred Olsen time and time again. So we know that we are doing things right. But we always have to make sure that there are itineraries in the programme and destinations to keep you wanting to come back and exploring more of the world with Fred. So let's look at some of the UK highlights to begin with. So cruises a little bit closer to home. So we have cruises from 5 nights from Southampton. This one is departing on the 15th of April 2022. Now, as I'm sure most of the Mars Morgan clients are going to be based in and around the south area, so I'm mainly going to be talking about the Southampton departures, although of course we do have departures from Dover, Newcastle, Liverpool and so forth. Now, the great advantage on this one, again, Braemar being the smaller ship, when she's docking in Plymouth and also Falmouth, she's docking within less than a mile of walking distance to the main city centre in Plymouth and of course the town centre in Falmouth. We also listen to our guest feedback, and where applicable, we do spend overnight stays so that you get the best and the most enjoyment out of your time ashore. This particular itinerary here is visiting the islands of the UK, and in particular we've got St Peter Port down in Guernsey, we've got St Mary's on the Isles of Scilly, and various other ports, particularly up and around Scotland as well. Now, this particular voyage has actually become one of our best-selling itineraries in recent weeks. It's been on sale a couple of weeks, and it really, I think, one of the highlights on this particular voyage is the fact that it's going to the Isles of Scilly. We have other cruises going around the UK, some of them just concentrating on the Scottish Islands. So other short breaks. So from Southampton, again, you can go to Falmouth, but you can also touch the north coast of France. So we've got places like Honfleur and also Rouen. And again, being Braemar, she's that smaller ship that she can cruise up the Seine River all the way to Rouen. If you haven't yet done that voyage, I certainly would recommend it because it's such a scenic cruise up the river, and you get so close to the banks of the river that you can see the castles and the chateaux and all sorts of things exciting going on along the River Seine. Once you're in Rouen, there is also the opportunity to jump on the train if you wish to and go into the city of Paris. Exploring European cities is another opportunity. Again, it's got Rouen on there, Antwerp with an overnight stay. And if you're choosing a cruise on Antwerp, of course, you will cruise up the river to the city centre of Antwerp. And when we dock in Antwerp, we guarantee you that we are the only cruise ship in at that particular time because only one cruise ship will fit. So that means we've also got an overnight stay in Antwerp due to the tidal on the river, and also a visit to Amsterdam. And there are itineraries available with overnights in Amsterdam as well. Looking slightly further afield, so where else can we take you? So from Southampton, of course, Norway is our bread and butter. We've always got itineraries up to Norway in the summer, in the springtime, and of course in the winter as well. This is what we call a classic Norwegian fjords departure, and this really attracts a lot of first-time cruisers to Fred and first-time cruisers in general. Again, a highlight with this one is Flom, and great to see that our new vessels are still able to visit the destination of Flom. Due to environmental reasons, not every cruise ship is able to visit Flom, but we are with Valletta and Borealis, which is fantastic news. We've also got places like Olden and Flom, and being smaller ships, we can cruise the little nooks and crannies that simply big ships can't get to. So you're going to have a more scenic and a more authentic cruise when you're cruising Norway. Heading slightly further afield, we've got Iceland. Now, who does not want to go to Iceland? It is an amazing country. There is so much to see and do, so many tours available on offer. You can do the waterfalls, as you can see in this image, and you've also got the famous Blue Lagoon if you want to go and bathe in there. Let's head down south and head towards some sunshine itineraries. So this is Braemar heading out on a Adriatic cruise, heading up to Venice, Dubrovnik, Split, and many other ports of call along the way. It's a 27-night cruise, leaving in October 2022. And of course, I couldn't not talk about Braemar and the Corinth Canal. So this particular itinerary, we've got a couple of them on sale already. There's very limited availability left. They've been on sale quite recently. This particular one is a 25-night cruise. So we've got 2 departures from the UK, from Southampton, heading over to the Mediterranean, and even particularly around Greece and the Corinth Canal. Now, we did this itinerary a couple of years ago as the very first itinerary. So we have actually repeated these ones because they've been so popular. Braemar is actually the largest vessel that can cruise through the Corinth Canal and is now in the Guinness Book of Records for doing so. So if you haven't yet done the Corinth Canal, I'm certainly recommending it, adding it to your bucket list. It is truly magnificent. When I come on to talk about the fly cruises shortly, we will also be offering a fly cruise out to the Greek islands. So you can also do the Corinth Canal in a shorter period of time if you don't have the full 25 nights to do so. But with the Corinth Canal, I recommend you get in there quick because the last few cabins won't be available for much longer. Right place, right time. So the next few itineraries are all about making sure that our ships are in the best possible place at the best possible time so that you can enjoy your time ashore. The first couple of itineraries here are in Amsterdam, and this is the highlight really of these itineraries because the Floriade Expo is going to be taking place in the city of Amsterdam. It's a horticultural show that happens every 10 years and it truly is magnificent. So it's going to be in April of 2022, perfectly timed for all the tulips and all the flowers to be in full bloom. So it's a short departure. They are 5 nights from either the northern departure port of Newcastle or indeed Southampton. Overnight stay, so you get the best of your time. You get 2 days in the city of Amsterdam. And of course, you'll be able to visit Rotterdam also. The French Riviera and the Monaco Grand Prix. Now, we've done the Monaco Grand Prix a couple of times previously, and it's been rated as one of the best itineraries we've ever done by our guests. This time we will be docking in Villefranche, and we will then be taking our guests over to Monaco on race day. Now, whether you're into motor racing or not, it is a fantastic itinerary. There's some great ports of call. You've got Cannes, you've got Barcelona, Alicante, Gibraltar. So a sunshine cruise in May of 2022 down to the Mediterranean. European Christmas markets. Who doesn't love coming on board when all the ships are decorated and you can have some fantastic Christmas festivities and Christmas dinners on board? This one's leading up to Christmas, so it's taking in the Christmas markets, setting sail on Balmoral from Southampton in the early part of December 2022. And of course, being Balmoral, you'll be able to cruise back through the Kiel Canal. Talking of Christmas, we do of course have 4 ships, so you can spend 4 different itineraries on board at Christmas time. The first one here is being a colder white winter Norway cruise. Now it is heading off from Tilbury, but it's going right up to the top of Norway. You've got Honningsvåg, Hammerfest, and of course an overnight in Alta. And the overnight in Alta gives you the best opportunity to see the Northern Lights. So not only is it going to be a white Christmas, you'll hopefully get a great glimpse of the Northern Lights as well. But if Christmas is your thing, but perhaps it's not the cold and it's not the snow, then why not jump on board either Borealis or Balmoral and head south to the Canary Islands for Christmas? We have a departure from Liverpool. We also have a departure from Portsmouth. Now, we've got Madeira in the itineraries, and one of those cruises will experience the Madeira firework display for New Year's Eve. Madeira is one of the best places in the world to see the fireworks at New Year's Eve. It beats London, Singapore, Sydney, Hong Kong, all those big cities, and Madeira is also in the Guinness Book of Records for the best firework display on New Year's Eve. I've been very fortunate myself and done it twice, and it truly is magnificent. However, if you'd like to fly out to the Caribbean and join us for Christmas, then you can on this Caribbean itinerary for 14 nights. Now, with our Caribbean fly cruises, they will commence again for December 2022. So on this particular itinerary, you'll be flying into Barbados and out of Havana in Cuba. Now with the fly cruises, particularly in the Caribbean, we don't do the same old islands and we don't run bus routes with the same itineraries over and over again. So any guests that we have coming out to do back-to-back cruising, and there are lots of you that do that in the Caribbean, for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks at a time, you will be visiting different islands because you'll have different itineraries to choose. So let's talk about Miles Morgan escorted groups. So we have the lovely Margaret, Nina, Simon and Joan to be able to take you on escorted groups. So we've teamed up with Miles Morgan to offer transport for most of the Miles Morgan shops. So that means you can jump on a coach and come down or up to our UK departure ports to join some fantastic itineraries. So the first one here is Joan. She's going to be escorting a Miles Morgan group for 14 nights going up in search of the Northern Lights. So it's on the 24th of March 2022. So you can simply sit back on that coach and relax, knowing that everything's going to be taken care of for you. So this one heads up to Bergen, Bode, Ålesund, and up to Alta and Tromsø. So like I mentioned before, Alta and also Tromsø are going to be the best places, which is why you are overnighting in both of these destinations to see the best glimpse of the Northern Lights. And of course, if you're in Alta, you'll have that opportunity to go and stay overnight in the Ice Hotel if you wish to do so. There'll be lots of opportunities for snowmobiling, going to see the reindeer and so forth. There's so much to go and see up and around Norway in the wintertime. Now, you may have already done Norway. You may have done it in the summer. It's completely different in the winter, and it really is magnificent. Nina, on the other hand, is going up to Norway, and she's going further up into Spitsbergen on the 22nd of June 2022. So this really is an exploration cruise heading right up into the remote parts of Norway. It is a northern departure leaving from Newcastle, so there'll be a coach provided to take you from your some of the Miles Morgan shops up to Newcastle, and of course on that return as well. Discovering the Falklands, so Simon is doing an escorted group down to the Sunshine. He's going to be on board for 18 nights with a group of Miles Morgan guests on board Valletta. And like I mentioned previously, Valletta being the faster speed, she's able to get to the Adriatic coastline in and back in as little as 18 nights. So you've got places like Dubrovnik and Split and Kotor. And then we have the lovely Joan again. She is escorting the American waterways of Canada in the fall. Now this one isn't departing until the 26th of September 2023, the 34-night cruise on board Balmoral. And this itinerary, we've got lots of overnight stays, particularly in some fantastic ports of call in St. John's, in Halifax, of course in New York City, and there'll be a little bit of sunshine on the way home in Bermuda before coming back to the Azores and back into Southampton. So that particular voyage has been planned specifically to take you in the fall season, so autumn time, to hopefully see all the magnificent colours of all the trees and the foliage turning orange. So let's move on and look at some of our fly cruising departures that we have. So with our fly cruises, you'll be able to depart from either London Gatwick or Manchester on our charter flights. Or, for example, on this one, if there were more regional departure ports, more regional airports such as Bristol, then perhaps you could get your own flights and Miles Morgan could arrange those and meet the ship in Valletta. This one is the Corinth Canal, like I mentioned previously. It's a 10-night, so a much shorter duration, but it is still giving you the opportunity to cruise through the Corinth Canal. And the Caribbean. So we don't only feature just Caribbean islands, of course, we do visit destinations and ports of call in South and Central America. And there's going to be lots of concentration on culture and wildlife with these ports. So you've got Belize City, Puerto Limon, Curacao, Guadeloupe and Barbados. And of course, coming on to very extraordinary adventure. Now, this particular itinerary has only been on sale a week, and already it's been our best-selling itinerary since our itineraries we've been putting on sale since 2015. Now, if you cruise with Fred Olsen a lot and you know a lot about us, back in 2015, we put some fantastic itineraries on sale to the solar eclipse. They were the best-selling, fastest-selling itineraries we've ever done. This world cruise for 2023 is not far off, and we do think that it's going to beat the solar and be the fastest-selling cruise since 2015 with the solar eclipses. So it is an around the world in 80 days. Now, I know we've all been locked up in our homes, and I bet we can't all wait to get out and explore the world. And I do really think that's why so many people have booked onto this around the world so quickly. So it is inspired by Phileas Fogg and his Around the World in 80 Days. Now, this departure is going in 2023, and that will be exactly 150 years after the publication of Around the World in 80 Days. So we are setting out with Borealis for the trip of an absolute lifetime. So this is the itinerary. It's heading from Southampton on the 23rd of Feb 2023, or if you are living slightly further north, there is the opportunity to jump on board in Liverpool 2 days prior. So it's heading down to Lisbon, through the Mediterranean, and literally following the itinerary of Phileas Fogg. Then when you get to the Suez Canal, you've got Port Said and Safaga in Egypt, then on down to a couple of ports of call in India, with Mumbai, Kochi and Goa. Then you'll head to Singapore, Nha Trang and Vietnam, which is probably one of my favourite countries in the world, Hong Kong, before arriving up into 4 departures in Japan. Then before crossing the Pacific, you'll have 3 islands in Hawaii, and then you'll arrive in San Francisco, San Diego, Acapulco, back through the Panama Canal. So you'll have the Suez Canal on the way out, the Panama Canal on the way home, a couple of ports of call in South America, Caribbean islands, before hitting the Azores and back to Southampton. Now, you may recognise and realise that this departure goes out on the 23rd of February 2023, which is slightly later than our normal world cruise departures, and there is a great reason for this. So it's a 79-night cruise in 80 days around the world, with prices starting at £9,999 per person, and we are offering up to £500 on board spending credit, depending on the grade of cabin you choose. So the reason it's setting out a little bit later than some of our previous world cruises is because of a couple of things. The first being, when we arrive in Egypt, it's going to be exactly 100 years since Howard Carter opened Tutankhamun's tomb. So there's going to be lots of events and festivals and activity in and around Egypt during this particular time. Excuse me. Like I said, once you arrive in India, there's plenty of opportunity for you to do overland tours. So if you wanted to do an overland tours for a couple of nights to the Taj Mahal or the Golden Triangle, you'll have an opportunity to do so. But of course, the big highlight on this particular voyage is going to be when you arrive in Japan. So perfectly timed so that when you are there, it's going to be in full bloom of cherry blossom. And of course, you're in Japan for 4 ports of call. So again, great opportunities to jump on the bullet train, go and see Mount Fiji, go and see the monkeys. There is so much to go and see and do in and around Japan. Now, Phileas Fogg didn't visit Hawaii on his way across the Pacific, simply because he didn't have time to do so in 80 days. We do, we've got faster ships, so we're able to do that. So we couldn't do a world cruise without visiting these beautiful islands in Hawaii, and we have 3 of them to visit. And then, of course, coming on to San Francisco, your first port in the US, you'll be able to visit San Francisco. Whether you want to cycle over the Golden Gate Bridge or go and visit Alcatraz, again, a great city. You'll be docked in the heart of the city, so you can go and explore all that San Francisco has to offer. So that's just a brief snapshot of around the world in 80 days. Now, many people have already asked about sectors. I don't believe that we're going to be putting sectors on sale for that cruise, purely because it's only 80 days and also because it's been a very popular itinerary so far with bookings. So just moving back to Miles Morgan, so we have put our new itineraries on sale as of today for our Ocean Loyal members, and on general sale is going to be Monday the 15th. Now, our brochures have gone out to any pre-existing Fred Olsen members, but if there's any of you that haven't yet received a brochure and you're new to Fred Olsen, just let us know and we can send one out to you. Now, there is also a digital version of this available with Miles Morgan, and we can send you links to that brochure as well. Now, some of you on the call may have had cruises with us cancelled over the last 12 months or so, and you may be sitting on some vouchers for your next cruise. So I just want to clarify how the vouchers work and the information for them. So if anybody has a voucher, the voucher is valid for 12 months and it is based on 10%. If you're booking a new cruise that is a lower value than your original cruise, then it's 10% of the value of the new cruise. If you're booking a new cruise that is of a higher value, then it's based on 10% of your existing cruise. However, there is absolutely no rush to make your decision and cruise again, picking your perfect itinerary. All money that we are holding for you is going to be held in the pot for 24 months. So you can simply take your time. However, the future cruise vouchers are only valid for 12. Any guest that still has money held with us for 24 months, we will then give you an additional 5% to say thank you for holding your money with us, even if you choose not to cruise with us. And of course, if you have had a cruise cancelled, you do have the opportunity to have your deposit back as well. But we are very much hoping that you will find a fantastic itinerary to pick out for your future cruise. We've recently updated our plain sailing guarantee. So if you're thinking of committing to a new cruise and paying a deposit, you don't have to worry about that deposit, because for any reason, if you decide to pick an itinerary for any reason that you cannot go on that, just simply let us know before your final balance is due and we can transfer that payment over to another cruise. All you have to do is let us know 90 days before departure for any cruise less than 24 nights. If it's more than that and you have an interim payment, then we need to know when the interim payment is due, which is 180 days or 6 months prior to departure. So for example, that would apply on the World Cruise. If you do have any further questions about any of the vouchers, any of the updated policies regarding plain sailing, just get in contact with your local Mars Morgan travel agent and they'll be able to help you every step of the way. So that leaves me just to come back and see all your lovely faces again and ask if anybody has any questions for me.
Yeah, you've done well, Kerry. You've got some questions. You'll be delighted to hear. Let me have a look and I'll let you know what you've got. And please keep those questions coming. I
hope I can answer them.
I hope you can as well. Otherwise, I might be put on the spot. Let's see how we go between the two of us. Are any excursions included in the price of the cruises? That's a good question.
No, unfortunately they're not, because we have guests that don't want to do excursions. Maybe they've been to these destinations previously. But so there is an opportunity to book onto shore excursions. They vary in cost, obviously. You can go on a shore excursion from as little as £20. Some of them are quite a lot more expensive than that if you're going on overland trips with private planes and so forth, but none are included.
I think it's fair to say, obviously, I think most people know that there are cruise lines that do include excursions within their cruise cost, but of course, there is no such thing as a free lunch, as we all know. So they will be actually costed in. Whereas I suppose the counter argument is with Fred, if you want to buy one, you can. And if there's a port of call, you just want to walk around the town or even stay on board, you haven't paid for it in essence, which is quite good. Yeah. Now, another cruise line has mentioned that they're going to insist that everybody has vaccinations before they go on board their vessel. What is Fred Olsen's stance on vaccinations?
Okay, unfortunately, I can't answer that question 100% for you now. And the reason being is because we're still very much working with the government. We are working with public health and we are working with CLIA, which is our cruise line body. Now, we hope to be able to come out with a certain information about that shortly. But at the moment, we are still very much in the planning stages with public health. We're very close. We're almost there about getting our policies in place, not only for our passengers, but also for the crew and what the protocols are going to be like cruising post-COVID. Things have been changing so quickly with regards to vaccines, with regards to face masks and all sorts of things. So what we didn't want to do is come out even a couple of weeks ago or months ago to say, right, this is our policy, this is what you must do on board our ships, because these policies have been changing so quickly. So I'd like to say, give us a couple more weeks and we will be able to tell you exactly what the protocols are going to be like on board. So watch this space. But of course, let me just explain that safety is our #1 priority on board, not only for our passengers, but also our crew. So it's being looked into in a great detail with many bodies, particularly with public health and the government.
Okay, very comprehensive, thank you. Next, we've got a question about people on board using oxygen concentrators. What's your view on that in the future? Will you be accepting people using those things or not? Or is that another one where you're waiting to get the advice from Public Health England?
Yeah, yes, exactly that, I'm afraid, Miles. So I can't answer that exactly at this stage, but hold fire and we will be able to let you know in just a couple of weeks. We hope to have everything finalised.
Okay, keep the questions coming in, everybody. I think the one thing I would say, and I mentioned it on almost when I started talking, is whenever I ever did a presentation with Kerry and with Fred Olsen, I always used to talk about the fact that Fred Olsen did not have the newest ships. And because they did not have the newest ships, they had to excel incredibly well at something to get people to book. And that, in essence, was the amazing service on board and the amazing food on board. And I think with what they've done now, they've almost got the combination of both, because those 2 new vessels that they've taken on last year were already in very, very good condition. And of course, they're going to have the Fred treatment, as Kerry mentioned. So it should be absolutely brilliant. I think everybody's champing at the bit to actually experience, if you like, the new Fred Olsen on those vessels, which hopefully won't be too long away. I'm going to ask you a controversial question now. I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you a controversial, Kerry. Some people might say, oh, they're bigger ships now. I much prefer Fred's when they had the little old small ships. Give me a take on that. What do you think on that?
Yes, the ships are bigger, but bearing in mind that they're a lot more spacious. So I don't feel it's going to be a big, enormous ship. You're certainly still going to get that friendly atmosphere on board with our existing crew. And of course, with our lovely passengers that come on board, they know us, and it's a very family feel on board our ships. You are not treated as a cabin number. You are Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And there's some faces on the call now that, from my experience of working on board for 7 years, it really is a lovely family on board. So we feel that there's going to be a much more personal service, even on the bigger ships, yes. But we haven't gone too big.
That was a loaded question, in fairness, because my personal opinion is they're still small ships, relative to where the market is these days. They are still small ships.
Yeah.
Another question, in terms of these new vessels that you've got, what do you think the biggest difference will be that people that are familiar with Fred's will see? Will there be the biggest difference in the cabins? Will it be the public areas, the restaurants? What do you know? And I know it's still new to you, but do you have a feeling on that?
I think the flexible dining approach is going to be a very positive approach to many of our guests. I think the show lounge, being that it's a 2-tiered show lounge, so there's just going to be more things, bigger but better as well. Yeah.
And obviously more space on board with bigger vessels and more facilities, which is great.
Yeah.
I will obviously, because I'm biased, I will put a plug in for our escorted tours and cruises that we do. I mean, this concept goes back, I don't know now, probably 5 or 6 years, when Nina, some of you know Nina, the manager of the shop in Ross on Wye, came up with a mad idea of taking a few people away for a cruise and said, what do you think? And I said, Nina, give it a go, and we did, and it was very successful, and it has rolled and rolled and rolled, and the number of people enjoying our escorted cruises grows every single year, which is fantastic. We have amazing people that look after people on that. Many of you will know them. So Nina is still escorting them. Somehow or other, she's managed to rope her mother, Joan, into doing exactly the same thing. So we've got that as well. Simon, a lot of you will know Simon. He is just the nicest chap you'll ever meet, and his wife, they're doing it. And obviously a lot of people also know Margaret and her husband that comes along as well. And it almost takes the Fred Olsen family that you just described, with all people on board, into our own little world on board that. And it's like a big club that go away, and there's just a lovely feeling about it. And of course, you've also got the mega convenience of the local pickup, which makes a huge difference. So there is nothing to worry about from when you meet Joan, Nina, Simon, Margaret, going down to the port, everything's taken care of and somebody's looking after you. And I can only see them getting busier and busier. And obviously with your new ships as well, it's just a great opportunity. Questions coming from Karen. Flexi dining, is that going to be available on all ships, or is it just on the new ones?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just going to be on the 2 new ships, and that's because we've got more space to be able to do the flexi dining, whereas we never had that before on Boudica Blackwatch, and there certainly isn't the space to do that on Braemar or Balmoral, unfortunately.
Okay. I will ask you the final curveball question that probably lots of people think about, but then I'll put you on the spot and ask you. It's the old classic cruise conundrum. Should I be booking early or should I be waiting till late, Kerry? What's your view on that?
If there's an itinerary and a cabin that you want, certainly book it now, because what we've seen, because everybody's been locked up in their homes, everybody's desperate to get away. And what we've noticed also, some of you may have had 3 or 4 cruises, or 3 or 4 holidays that you would normally do in a year. We're finding that people are coming and booking cruises, but then perhaps spending more money, higher revenue, and booking bigger and better cabins. And they're also going for longer voyages, which I think is the reason why that Around the World in 80 Days is sold incredibly well at the moment. Of course, there were some casualties in the cruise line, sadly, last summer, which means that we're also experiencing a higher volume of new passengers to Fred Olsen. So there's a lot more people out there booking cruises with Fred Olsen, which is fantastic news for us. And again, people I think are concerned about the big ships and are looking for something different, and certainly a smaller ship. So if you don't want to be disappointed, but the earlier you book, obviously you're going to get the cabins and the itineraries that you want, rather than waiting and being disappointed later down the line.
Yeah, I think, I mean, those of you that seen the videos that we do for the business as a whole, I think one of the things that I've been recommending all along, particularly as far as 22 is concerned, is I think, 2022 is going to be the year of the holiday. And what you've got is you've got people that were originally booked for 2020 and were disappointed, couldn't travel. People now 2021, disappointed, can't travel. And people that don't holiday that regularly. All of those people are all going to be crunched into 1 year, which is next year. And so I can easily see demand for holidays in 22 will exceed the supply. And because of that, I can probably only see pricing going up. So booking something and bagging something early is in my opinion, a good financial move. I think you should always practice what you preach. I've got both my holidays booked in for next year already. I've booked them. And I'm feeling very smug and happy with myself because I know exactly what I'm going to pay, and I'm delighted. I've got the dates I want. I'm going where I want to go, and I'm pleased. And I think that would be my advice to anybody out there: is get something booked and bagged so you've got it inked in at a good price. Oh, there's another question coming in.
Oh, sorry. Just to follow on from that, Miles. Sorry. Just to let you know as well, launch days today for our Ocean members and anybody that has vouchers out there to rebook cruises. Now, the period of time between Oceans on sale and General on sale has been extended to cover that, so that everybody has the opportunity to use those vouchers and book before it goes on general sale. So if you are thinking of booking and using your vouchers, my recommendation would be try and do it before Monday if you know exactly what you want, because then you'll get the best opportunity of cabins.
Well, there's a question coming, which is the question I always want to ask you, but you get bored with me asking it. So thankfully somebody else has asked it, which is good because it means I can ask you. So will you ever sail out of the port of Bristol, Kerry? Come on.
Okay. Never say never. I mean, we have cruised out of the port of Bristol previously. I think it was Boudica that cruised out of there. There were a couple of problems. So let's say never say never. If it becomes a port for opportunity again in the future, then we will consider it. But at the moment, it's not in our future plans.
Okay. I mean, for those of you, I'll put it in a completely non-technical way that everybody will understand, is that the challenge with Bristol is quite a simple one, because obviously as an agent that surrounds the port of Bristol, we're desperate for more people to cruise from the port. And the challenge that they've got is it is the most tidal port in Europe in terms of the up and down of the tides. And so what that means in practice is, and many of you will have cruised, is very regularly you can be slightly late into port. Happens quite a lot. But what happens in Bristol is if you're late into port, it means you simply can't get in, because the tide moves that much, which means you can't move at all until the next tide, and so you just bob around in the English Channel, not the English Channel, the Severn Channel there, waiting for the tide to change, and that makes a lot of the cruise lines and the captains of the cruise ships somewhat nervous, and that's why people aren't rushing in to fill the space that was left by another cruise line, is because their nervousness of missing the tidal flow and ending up the whole itinerary being pushed on and being late. But we're hoping that Fred's will look kindly at that, and if I have a chance to buttonhole Mr. Olsen Jr., I'll certainly be putting the case forward. Don't you worry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, there are no other questions coming in, so if anybody's interested in anything at all, please contact the shops. You've got their details, or you've got my details, because if you email into the group, it comes to me. So please contact us. Any questions you might have for Kerry that haven't been asked and you think of subsequently, again, just fire them in. We'll get an answer and we'll come back to you as soon as we can. But in the meantime, Kerry, thank you very, very much. It was a great presentation. I think we're all champing at the bit and probably a bit frustrated that Rosyth is too far away for us to pop and visit those amazing new ships. But one day, I just can't wait. But it's coming soon, which is wonderful. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope you found it really informative. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Kerry. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.